Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Very good morning. This is Pregnancy to Parenting. Welcome to it. I'm Kawa Solomon. I'll be with you for the next hour or so. Stay with us, and shukran so much for joining us as we introduce to you a very unique organization based here in Cape Town, and hopefully we'll see their wings spread much wider across the shores of South Africa. It's called Cape Town Embrace. We'll be profiling this organization and specifically entitled to our show, because this is the aim and objective, looking and highlighting at the first 1,000 days of a life. So that's our show for today, first 1,000 days of the life, and they'll be telling us about it. But when we talk about 1,000 days, I mean, what does that really mean? So it means from the day of conception till about 2 years old, inshallah. But let's welcome our guest, Julie and Habiba. Assalamu alaikum, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
So before we do any sort of introductions to Cape Town Embrace, we have a very special video that you guys furnished us with, and we want to introduce that to the viewers, inshallah. So let's first see Cape Town Embrace vision. Please do enjoy this clip. It's wonderful. Sit back, listen to it, feel the heartbeat. power that can make the city change. Wow, that statistics are some scary stuff, ladies. Cape Town Embrace has been around for just about over a year, I think, and has done so much work, and an initiative like that is most definitely sought for in Cape Town. Some scary stuff. So before we talk about more of the statistics and the reality of what's happening and what work Cape Town Embrace really does within our community, just chat to us about who Cape Town Embrace is, where it all started, and just give us an introduction to the viewers, inshallah.
Shukran Hawa for having us. Cape Town Embrace is a rather ambitious and different movement of caring people, caring Cape Townians who know that the future of our city basically is defined by our children and their current well-being. So we're a movement of ordinary people, faith-based organizations, and any other organization who have the same vision for our children. And our aim is to build a citywide network of support for children who are, in particular children in their first 1,000 days of life. As you mentioned previously, we count this as from the moment of conception to the age of 2 years, given the crucial development stage this is for a life.
So whose great big idea was that? What sparked it all off, Julie?
So I think, something like this has been needed in our city for a very, very long time. And we're just very grateful that we've had visionaries in Cape Town who've picked up on, the need of the first 1,000 days with our children, the potential that our children have that really needs to be unlocked in the city. It's the concept of the first 1,000 days is not a foreign one. It's quite well known internationally, and there's lots of research coming out on why this phase is so critical. But in Cape Town, this particular program, we call it a movement, Cape Town Embrace, was a brainchild of Dr. David Harrison. He's the CEO of one of the big trusts in Cape Town. And it came about after a conversation he had with some individuals about what the reality was like in Cape Town. And you've seen those statistics that were released at the time of the conception of our movement, and we just realized that something needs to be done. But what resources do we have in the city to do something as radical as this? And the reality is that the biggest resource, most powerful resource we have is the resource of ordinary, caring individuals, regular Cape Town people, young, old, poor, rich, who have the ability, who care for children and have the ability to make a big difference.
So what if somebody asks you, but still, why does Cape Town need a movement like that? Why can't everybody just get together and help each other?
No, and that's a valid question. The reality of our context, however, in terms of our city, is that we still live in a very segregated society. This is a city that remains divided by highways and byways and railway lines. I mean, Jake Gerwel Drive alone, divides Pontebel from Langa, from another part of town. I hate the fact that I live in Manenberg. I hate the fact that I'm divided from Gugulethu by a railway line. These are my brothers and sisters. And this influences how we see each other, how we perceive our role in society, our sense of self, how we feel about each other, and ultimately treat each other and our children. And our socioeconomic inequalities aside, that very physical segregation, it's not a healthy context in which to raise children, in which to nurture human beings who we want to be healthy, whole, loving people who cherish their fellow human beings.
Absolutely.
And this is why it's so critical.
I had a debate with somebody last night, funnily enough, about those sort of statistics, talking about almost half of Cape Town's infants not making past a certain age because of A, B, and C. It's like, no, that's not even possible. That's not true. I mean, how does these statistics even come about? Because if you think of it, I mean, just in reality, saying half of Cape Town's infants not reaching a certain age and dying, and us losing them, really does sound unrealistic.
So the statistic for the, obviously you'll see an increase. So we have, the statistics tells us that about 2,000 children die in their first year of life of the first 75,000, whilst the others go on to live. Their reality is very different from the children who are able to reach their full potential. So poor access to nutrition, to early childhood development, development services, to adequate health care. These result in our children being developmentally stunted, result in our children not having access that will allow them to be the thriving human beings that we hope for them to be. So whilst our children are not lost, they are here, something needs to be done, and we have graphs that can show us the percentage of lost potential in Cape Town, and that has a devastating effect of the city, especially that's happening every year.
So what makes Cape Town Embrace different from other programs focused also on family and infant care?
I think the what's so beautiful about our movement is that, first of all, we are using the most critical resource the city has, its people. We are not trying to reinvent the wheel. We are not a service delivery organization. There are some wonderful community-based organizations doing valuable work, and our aim is really to partner with them, to highlight their efforts, to help our mothers, our caregivers, and our babies access these services. And I think we aim to mobilize the people of the city, and through ordinary magic. This is not rocket science. The 4 essential building blocks that a child needs: love, nutrition, stimulation, and safety. But there are so many barriers to entry when you think about the huge part of our city's population that are marginalized. They live on the outskirts of the city. They don't have access to the formal economy of the city. You ask a child in Khayelitsha to define Cape Town, he will tell you about his dusty streets and the shacks. You ask a child in Newlands about Cape Town, he will tell you about the mountains and the ocean. And through using our people and building bridges so that every child has access to all the natural wealth and the people and the resources of the city, connectedness, that is the essence of who we are, and that makes us different.
Let's connect, and this is what we're highlighting today, and how we can connect to create a better first 1,000 days of a child's life. Back in a moment, so stay with us. Assalamu alaikum, welcome back. A very good day to you. Thank you so much for staying with us as we highlight the first 1,000 days of a child's life. Yes, and we're talking right from conception. So when that baby is developing in your tummy, right up until the time, the day of birth. And I know we're somewhere there taking baby home, looking at the importance of mom being at home, caring for the baby, and inshallah our next show will highlight the development of a child, of the baby, the immunizations and the sort of nutritional information, the importance of it as well. So we are highlighting the first 1,000 days through an organization based here in Cape Town called Cape Town Embrace. They've got a website, you can Google it right now, and they've also got a Facebook page, so like it. But let's welcome our guests back, Habiba and Julie, which I haven't given justice to their true introductions, but we'll get into that a little bit later on. We are highlighting Cape Town Embrace and talking about the social network that they need to establish and that you guys are working so hard to achieve through your vision. So talk to us about that and the possibilities of networking and the access of it.
So our real desire is to create the citywide network of support that supports all parents, caregivers who have children in the first 1,000 days of life and beyond. And that's, you asked Habiba earlier in the show what makes our program different. That's what makes it different, is that we really define ourselves as a movement, and a movement of people. So I look at that, the concept of that snowball effect. We're starting small, and we're hoping that we're going to gather momentum by gathering people across the city, and that includes the government, that includes non-profit organizations, civil society, the ordinary individuals, the grannies, the grandpas, the mums, the dads. As I said, we need everyone to be a part of this movement in support of young children, to get involved and to say, you know what, your child is my child. And this sort of concept of Ubuntu is something that we're really passionate about, because a person cannot raise a child in isolation. and expect that child to really thrive. You know, we learn from our experiences, and our children learn from experiences, shared memories, and so we really, that's our desire, is for this program to be adopted by the city. It's not our program, it's the city's program, and we really hope that people will get excited about it, join us and say, well, how can I help? I care about children too. I want every child to have that opportunity to thrive.
Well, just going through your website and looking at the sort of resources and the networks that you have already established and you have available on there that people can access. I paged and it was as if the page didn't want to end. So I must say congratulations to that, within that year, that you have that access available. But not everybody can also access the internet. Although, as we're saying, not everybody has cell phones, but do they have access to internet? So let's talk about people that needs to also access that information other than through the web.
And this is the power of our movement, because one of the critical issues that we focus on is the lack of resources, the lack of access to basic information that our caregivers in marginalized contexts do not have, because they don't have access to the internet, because they have very basic literacy skills and they have a different first language. And so part of what we're doing through connecting caregivers with people who have access is to provide access in that way. Another part of our focus is our actual grassroots level orientation, where we go out and we're about to empower an amazing group of facilitators as our little army of our Embrace team to go out into the field and empower caregivers directly with this information.
Army of love.
Army of love, love for our children. With basic information, and we have been very innovative with our resources, our toolkits that we will employ in this course.
So let's talk about the importance of the first 1,000 days of life. Not of the baby, not in infancy, not pregnancy, but of life itself. Can you tell us a bit more about why we need to focus on that, and let's start teaching our moms?
Absolutely. So research on this field is ongoing. Obviously the first 1,000 days starts in utero, and interestingly, I was speaking to a gynecologist the other day, and she was telling me that if you had to take a snapshot in utero of a baby's brain on one day, from one day to the next, it would look different every single day. So that image, that cross section of that baby's brain would change every single day throughout pregnancy. And that's because the time of most rapid brain development in a person's life, and their whole life, happens in that first 1,000 days of life. 80% of brain development occurs in this time period. So if you think about
I'm sitting calculating.
Yeah, exactly. It's critical that we provide what is required for the brain to go through optimal development. And obviously when you look at the first part of that being in utero, the person who's primarily responsible for that would be the pregnant mother. So it really is, I mean, there's a whole bunch of things that mums can do, and a lot of it just runs its course because the body is an amazing thing, and development of that fetus in the womb, you know, happens as it should happen. But one can do a lot to support that process. When we look at, the nutrition, what is the mom eating in her diet during that time period? If you think about it, it's quite amazing, and something that I learned is that the part of the brain that's responsible for language peaks when the mum is about 6 months pregnant, between 6 and 9 months pregnant. So if you think about that, I mean, your child is learning how he or she is going to speak and engage with the world, and so the response to that is speak to your baby in the womb, engage with him, read to your baby. Literacy, the concept of literacy starts in the womb. So it seems funny, to have a book and read to your baby in the womb, but that's what's actually required. And anything that happens post the first 1,000 days in that regard really is remedial more than getting the foundations correct. So, again, the simple things that any doctor will tell you, if you are someone who consumes alcohol, as soon as you miss that first period, you need to stop, because alcohol has a devastating effect on a growing brain. The same would be for other substances. But they're very simple things that one can do, but they make a big impact.
So when baby's born, what are you most targeted at with regards to information to mom? I know you mentioned nutrition, you mentioned just that bond, interacting with Baba. So, and there's no way mom could ever feel sad. Last week we did a show on postnatal depression, but you know what? Everybody is happy around us, but if mom is suffering from PND, it is important to focus on that and try and heal that. So let's talk about, before we talk about mom's mental state and her health with regards to that, the importance of baby when baby is born. The same, like sometimes we don't realize the importance of being pregnant, but when baby's born, there's a lot of effort and energy. It's like things need to be this way and that way because baby's now here. Let's do it right now. So what are the main focuses when baby is there?
So if you look at, it's funny, it starts in that birthing process. Are you supported while you give birth? What is your mental state like in that space? A young mum who is all alone in a hospital setting will possibly have quite different birth experience to someone who's lovingly supported by a partner or family members. And that does a lot for the mum's emotional state in terms of how she receives the baby and how that baby is welcomed into the world. So that is crucial. But then again, it's about following simple steps. We really are passionate about promoting breastfeeding, about promoting skin-to-skin contact with the baby, keeping them close to you. One of my core values that I've held dear as a mum, and that we spread on our program, is that in that early stage, you are all your baby needs. You've got everything. You've got, your baby's nutrition, you've got his warmth, his love, support structures are all there. And so we really just ask that in a supported environment, you continue to do that and your baby will thrive off it.
Wow. Okay. So let's talk about mom's mental health and what sort of physical support you as an organization is there when a mom approaches you and says, I'm really battling with my newborn, either with breastfeeding or I just can't cope. What is your directions to them?
Well, the objective of our program is to connect caregivers to each other, and to people across the divide, so to speak. And one of the main activities that we engage in is dialogue. Facilitate a whole session around dialogue, the importance of talking about your feelings, acknowledging it yourself, finding a safe space in which to talk about it. We have a network of professional organizations to which we would refer women through by our volunteers, where they can access the help available to them. Often we underestimate the value of the support networks within our own communities, especially women who find themselves in what they believe to be very disempowering situations, but there is so much power that lives in those contexts, and I've seen it in action. I see strong, amazing women supporting each other and creating magic every day where I live in a sometimes very violent context in Manenberg, and especially when the gang violence is at its most extreme, it's the women who create the magic and eventually play a big part in bringing about the peace, in sheltering the children from harm, and so there's a lot of power in that. I think that's the magic of it. We're the foundation of it.
So let's empower ourselves, and thankfully Cape Town embraces an organization there to help you to empower yourself. And I love the idea that you know, across racial grounds, you break them. Those barriers don't even exist. I love how I was looking through the pictures on your Facebook page. So guys, please visit Cape Town Embrace Facebook page and their website as well. Some important information to network, and that is their main aim, that you find that numbers, that books, that references to network and pass it on. More on the first 1,000 days of life after this. Assalamu alaikum, a very good day and welcome back. I'm Khawa Solomon. Shukran for staying with us in this edition of Pregnancy to Parenting. We focus on the first 1,000 days of life, and just to reiterate, that's from conception right through your pregnancy until baby's born, talking about the actual birth process and how that affects both mom and baby. We will be focusing on the importance of mom's mental health as well, because for me that's ultimate. Mom needs to be in a good space to be looking after and caring for baby, whether you're pregnant or just this tiny little being. Thank you so much to Julie and Habiba from Cape Town Embrace, and this is the organization that we are highlighting today. So like their Facebook page, search for their website, Cape Town Embrace. It's an organization based here in Cape Town, and as I said in the introduction, hopefully soon you will be spreading your wings with this great network all across South Africa. And their main focus is to network. So if ever you need information about baby, about pregnancy, about development, visit that website, Cape Town Embrace. So let's talk about some practical methods on enhancing your baby's brain development within that 1,000 days.
So whilst the process of brain development is such a complex one, I mean, I don't think we can even begin to imagine what's happening in there.
Because you said earlier on about the baby showing different waves, even when in utero.
Absolutely.
The brain,
every, a cross section of a brain scan in utero every single day in utero will look different. Yeah. So it is a complex process, but it's built on 4 foundational building blocks that are actually quite simple and would be considered intuitive for most parents. It's a concept of love, stimulation, nutrition, and safety.
Okay.
So if we look at the idea of love really goes, when you look at your baby, once your baby is moving around in you, what is your mental state towards that baby? Are you showing feelings of love? Are you touching your baby, your belly, rubbing your belly? How do you feel? That's influencing, and the pre-birth state. Once your baby is born, are you carrying your baby, loving your baby, looking into your baby's eyes, just expressing that emotion, that overwhelming emotion that you feel to your little one. That they sense that, they pick that up, they know who their primary caregivers are, and they form very positive, we hope that they're positive attachments with those parents. So bonding and attachment in the first 1,000 days is just crucial to positive brain development. Then you look at nutrition, and again we've talked about, briefly spoken about the importance of prenatal nutrition. Habib and I aren't qualified dietitians, but we've read the research and we're in contact with people who are, and it really is about following a healthy diet in pregnancy that will rapidly reduce your chances of getting gestational diabetes and other complications. Taking your prenatal vitamins that are given to you, whether you're at government hospitals or in the private sector, are really crucial. So do that. And then when your baby's born, I mean, again, based on all your baby needs, if you can breastfeed, please do that. The qualities of breast milk, it's just astounding.
Breast milk is gold.
Absolutely. We call it liquid gold, and that is exactly what it is. So breastfeed if you can. We're very passionate about it. Obviously, in some situations mums aren't able to, but where they are, we really believe they need to be supported in doing that. And then you look at stimulation and you think, well, what do I need to do for a baby? And the reality is you can overstimulate babies. So you're not required to present 100 bouncy, fluffy, multicolored toys in front of them. I mean, you probably just freak the poor baby out and overstimulate them completely. Stimulation is really, really simple. It's about looking into your baby's eyes, talking to your baby. That starts a process in the brain that we refer to as serve and return, where you respond to the baby's needs and they see that in a positive light, and so their little brain lights up and they respond back to you, and it's the first start of conversations that happen when your baby's a newborn and continues to grow. So that's really important, being present. It's not about, especially in the age where everyone has a cell phone and you could potentially be stuck on there while you're breastfeeding. Try not to do that. Put that aside and focus on your baby. Be present in the moment. I mean, everyone knows they're little for such a short period of time, even though in the moment it might feel like they'll never grow up. And then the other one is safety. And safety might seem like a very straightforward process, keeping your baby safe. But for babies who grow up in contexts where there are, situations in the community that perhaps are unsafe, a mother and a father can still do, or a primary caregiver can do a lot to make that baby feel safe, even if there is gang violence or community unrest going on. And so it's really important for the parents to respond to their baby's needs and make them feel safe in that process. So those are the 4 basic building blocks. There's a lot more that can be done under those guidelines, but if you focus on those, and a lot of, as I said, parents are doing them anyway, so we just want to encourage parents to keep doing what you're doing, and we'll see a big change and big improvement.
And especially since you highlighted, when you talk about it more, you realize, I'm doing the right thing.
Absolutely.
Yes, to reiterate that.
And that's what we want to do, encourage the caregivers and parents out there. You may not be materially wealthy and think, I can't provide all the best for my child, but by being there, the lullabies that you sing, the cuddles that you give, the breast milk that you so lovingly express or you feed directly to your baby, that is all your baby really needs. You're doing a good job, and we want to encourage you to keep going. Absolutely.
So thank you, shukran, for doing that and being there. I just needed to say that. Habiba?
No, I just to reiterate what Julie said, it doesn't matter where you live or what you own or what your socioeconomic status is. Literally all your baby needs is your physical presence, your acknowledgement, in order to thrive. I mean, a lot of research has been done where mothers have raised babies in context of wars, in refugee camps, and those babies who were cuddled and cared and felt the presence of the primary caregiver thrived despite the context and the environment. There's a fascinating scientific term called epigenetics that talks about how your context, your environment can literally change the formation of your genes, and so if you have that physical safety and the presence of a primary caregiver that defines that immediate environment, there's no reason that for a child not to thrive.
So let's look on the flip side of things. When mom is not too well, she's physically there, she's doing all the work what her body needs her to do. She's breastfeeding, she's changing nappies, washing and all of those nitty-gritties, but her mental health is not intact. So let's try and focus that on how we can help mom. There was a beautiful show again of last week, postnatal depression, and sometimes it's just baby blues. So let's talk about mom's mental state and when she's not well.
Absolutely. Just to first of all say, there is no shame for any woman who's struggling with postnatal depression. I think any mental illness tends to have a stigma attached to it, and we want to say that considering what some mums go through, it's quite amazing that they do as well as they do. It's exhausting having a little person rely on you, and you've got that flood of hormones following the birth. So what can we do? Well, there are organizations in existence that are able to provide professional services where they're required. In some cases that may require a woman to be placed on an antidepressant of sorts. But then there's also a great power in that mother to mother or that support, and we're really passionate about creating that. So whilst our program has a big focus on inter-community connections, that's creating bonds and relationships with people across the divide, there's also a lot of power to be had in intra-community relationships where mums from similar contexts, similar backgrounds, perhaps having similar struggles, can get together and talk and share their feelings. And so that's something we're really passionate about. And when there is a case of someone coming from outside in support of a mum, it really is about listening to her, hearing her, and seeing what can be done. But there is a place for professional services, and so when a mum needs that, if she thinks she needs that, she just needs to ask for help. And we need to be on the lookout for women who need those services too.
Yeah, so speak up and ask for that. Speak up. That's the big message here today. So earlier on, Habiba, you were mentioning the sparks that fly at these workshops and what happens. Talk to us about those sparks and the interactions and the actual runnings of a program hosted by Cape Town Embrace.
Absolutely. It's been an amazing journey on a personal and professional level for me. So we have the great honor of bringing together caregivers from across the divides, literally bringing a group of women from Constantia into Khayelitsha and facilitating an orientation session where we get to know them better, their sense of self, their sense of the city. And we have a fascinating exercise which we call the sandbox exercise.
I love those pictures. Yeah.
No, it's amazing. We get adult women and moms to play in the sand with toys, and we literally ask them to create Cape Town as you see it, Cape Town through your eyes.
That's what it's all about.
Absolutely. And it's a fascinating and emotional outcomes, this particular exercise. You would have a group of women in Khayelitsha would literally build Khayelitsha as they see it, and that for them is Cape Town.
Wow.
That for them is the city. And the most amazing thing is the women from the better resourced side of the city, so to speak, would start with this exercise and would end it almost in tears, because then they would realize the different sides to the city, and they would physically have to recreate this divide in this little sandbox, and it evokes many emotions in them, that it's not fun to live in a context that's so segregated, and they're two different worlds really.
The reality of Cape Town.
The reality of Cape Town.
And that is why Cape Town Embrace is here today. We will give your details, telephone numbers, and as well as websites. And we have a sandbox on on screen now. So we connect more with the first 1,000 days of life, and we'll bring up Dad in our next segment. Back in a moment. Assalamu alaikum, a very good day. Welcome back. I'm Khawa Solomon to our last segment of the first 1,000 days of life. We have representatives from Cape Town Embrace, these two ladies, dynamic ladies, does so much work in the community. Habiba lives in Manenberg and is passionate about the power of collective healing in traumatized communities. Julie is a wife and mother of a son she adopted and grappling with what it means to raise a child born from a different race. Although the cultural background, we know the cultural background in post-apartheid South Africa, so very challenging. And then she's still 18 weeks pregnant as well, sitting here. So thank you so much for the work that you, I have to say, for the work that you do currently in the community, tireless hours, really valuable to our community. So we've kind of established what and who Cape Town Embrace is, the sort of initiatives that you get involved in, the workshops, and also highlighting through this the message that you carry across. Just networking, which is not just networking, but highlighting the importance of the first 1,000 days of life. And I have to reiterate, it is from utero, conception, right up until baby is about 2 years old. So it's important from pregnancy to birth to that precious moments where baby is breastfeeding and just cuddling and finally seeing that baby at home with you. So we chatted just before the break about the importance of mom's mental health and how it is that if you find a problem, if there's an issue, speak out and ask for help. Now we talk about Dad and his role in all of this, in the importance of the first 1,000 days of life. Where does he fit in all of this?
So we are passionate about promoting the role of fathers in society. We can't do it without dads.
No.
Children need their fathers, and so we need dads to be present and to be engaged, with their partners when their partners are pregnant, right through to the birth process, and then hopefully for the rest of that child's life. Sometimes, it's a bit more difficult for some families than it is for others. And the reality of the programs that we've run so far is that many of those women are raising their children alone. Some of them do have partners. Some of the partners aren't as active as they'd like them to be, and that's really sad, and that has a long-lasting effect for those children. And so, if we're very honest, we would have to tell you that in our first year of running this program, we've grappled with how to include fathers, how to engage with fathers, especially if this is not something that the men in that particular community are very used to doing, changing nappies, being there, going to prenatal visits. If that's not something that they're used to, it's quite a mind shift. And we're working on how to do it because we see that it is just so crucial. So when we've had our family days, when we've brought people, you see the image there on the screen of one of the dads doing face painting, we brought people together across the divide. We've tried to include the dads as well, and so we've had them building activities with the kids together, and these are dads from Constantia, dads from Vrygrond, working together. Some of the men will tell you, they don't particularly feel like talking about their feelings at that particular time, but they're happy to braai, and make lunch for everyone together. So whilst that's a little bit stereotypical, we're working with what we have, and we're saying you're there, you're here, you're present. That's amazing. So that's something that we're really passionate about this year, is how do we, the mums that we approach and we work with at community clinics and in the communities, how do we then get their partners to be involved too, because it really is so important.
I'd like to add something when it comes to the role of dads. I don't think we can divorce looking at men and their role as dads from their role in society as men. And we have to acknowledge that we live in a past that has deliberately emasculated our men, especially our men in vulnerable contexts. They are socio-economically, they struggle. It challenges how they see themselves, their role as caregivers, their role as providers for their family, and their self-confidence, and this influences their confidence as fathers. And there are amazing organizations like Menke, Sonke, Gender Justice, who are helping that process of healing happening. But they have a journey of healing that they're on, and part of that is their role as fathers, but it's a small part of their role as men, and we have to acknowledge the history and the current challenges as part of that.
Absolutely well said, Habiba. That needs to be noted. So shukran so much for that. Shukran. Something I want to look at now is, I know you've mentioned some of the importance of being pregnant and the message you need to carry across to the moms at these workshops, but the absolute do's and don'ts that you try and reiterate from the beginning to the end, and that you hear yourself saying over and over again, what are those?
So again, because we're really talking about this phase of rapid brain development, we need to look at what protects the brain and what is harmful for the brain. So on our website, we have what we call a life stages tool, where we have the absolute critical messages for every stage. So that's the first early pregnancy, late pregnancy, 0 to 6 months, 6 to 12, and then the second year of life. It's broken up like that. And you'll see the first thing that we say in early pregnancy is, stop drinking as soon as you miss your first period. And we can't reiterate that enough. I've seen it firsthand in my personal life, working with babies who've been affected by fetal alcohol spectrum disorder, what that does to an infant, and it's heartbreaking, and the damage is irreversible. So please, 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 mums, dads who are supporting mums, families, help pregnant women to not drink. And the same goes for other substances as well. And then, the importance of proper prenatal care is really, we can't stress that enough. Please, if you find out you're pregnant, go to your local MOU, go to a local clinic and confirm your pregnancy, and then go about the process of getting adequate antenatal care. So, that is seeing the clinic sisters often as they're telling you to do, go for the necessary blood test, take the prenatal vitamins, eat a good diet, get rest during your pregnancy. And also, we really encourage our mums to confront their feelings about that pregnancy, be honest about them. Not everyone has fallen pregnant due to circumstances that make them thrilled and happy about having that baby, and that's okay. How do we support you through that? So one of the things that we would say to our mums is, please get support where you can. Speak to family members, speak to friends, and if that's not possible, get in contact with us and let's see if we can do something about that for you. And then when the child is born, again, you know, the foundation of good nutrition being breastfeeding, and then moving on to solids at around 6 months of age, still breastfeeding if possible. And you know, and making that a healthy process, including a wide variety of food in your baby's diet. And basically, then our crucial messages are, you know, get your child vaccinated, follow the schedule as outlined by the Department of Health. You know, go for the necessary visits to the clinic to ensure that your baby is healthy, and you know, look after yourself, your mental state being crucial, and then follow those 4 basic building blocks: love, stimulation, nutrition, and safety. And if you do those, we believe you can't really go too wrong.
Absolutely. Thanks, Julie, for that advice and guide. Now, looking at, and something that stands out for me is the racial barriers, as I mentioned earlier in your workshop, that's completely eradicated in those get-togethers. Please just enlighten our viewers maybe on the feedback of these sessions. How do people feel when they leave it? How do they feel before they start? You know, is this that an anticipation of what's going to happen, and yet it looks so beautifully enjoyed?
No, absolutely. I wish I could say that the racial barriers are completely eradicated, but I funnily enough, I think Embrace is a journey where people start to engage honestly about the very existence of those racial barriers, and racial is a big word, and barriers, you know, another big word, and I think it goes beyond that. There's class, and you know, and there's fear of the unknown. I read a beautiful article once about a journalist who literally crossed the bridge that divides Bonteheuwel from Langa, and brought 2 women from the respective communities together to visit each other's homes. And it was so profound, and that article concluded with the woman from Langa saying, now I know what her life is like, and that she wants better for my life. I never knew she wanted better for me. And that summarizes some of the epiphanies people have when they're on an Embrace journey. I never knew that you see me. You in Constantia see me in Khayelitsha. You in Rondebosch see me in Manenberg. That you think about my suffering, that you even acknowledge my suffering, and that you want better for me. And that's the start of a conversation. Just acknowledging those barriers is a very tough process for people to go through, and to a place to get to.
Oh, they look so happy in those workshops, though.
They do.
They're really enjoying it.
They have fun.
Yeah, they do have
see.
fun.
Yeah.
Ladies, we have 2 minutes to wrap up, so I quickly want to get as much information out to our viewers with regards to your website, the network that you have already established on there. Who can they connect with when visiting the details on your website, and the information that they need, possibly, as well as your Facebook page as well, and just the support just mentioned, and then a message from both of you, inshallah, as we conclude.
So we've designed our website to be an interactive one. It's constantly evolving. I'll never say our website is finished. And that goes for our resource page as well. So all the resources that you see listed there are non-profit organizations or public health service organizations who can really assist you with a variety of issues that you may have, from mental health to substance abuse to nutritional guidance. All of those are there, and women, men, parents, caregivers, anyone's welcome to go and have a look. And then Javier, if you want to go.
No, absolutely.
Concluding comments.
Yeah. I would like to encourage our caregivers out there to believe that you are enough for your baby. I come from a single parent home. I was raised by my mother, my grandmother, and grandfather. We didn't have much. I lived in an informal dwelling with no access to sanitation or water for most of my life. I attended a very public school, and I passed my matric exams with straight A's. And so anything is possible.
And you're part of Cape Town Embrace as an example that it happens and you can make the most of nothing. The little that you have, rather. Julie and Habiba, thank you so much. It was an absolute pleasure having you in studio here today for the work that you do. May the Almighty bless you abundantly and give you all the necessary strength, patience, and whatever you need through this journey of spreading the wings of Cape Town Embrace. We really thank you for the organization that you are part of, and we hope that maybe somewhere in Durban or Johannesburg, somebody's going to give you a call and say, listen, we want to do something like this there. So the details are on screen, and you can visit their website if you lost Cape Town Embrace Facebook page as well. Thank you so much, ladies. It was an absolute pleasure. Enjoy the rest of your day, and goodbye for now.
Thanks.
From myself, Hawa Solomon, I hope you enjoyed this part of Pregnancy to Parenting. Join us next week again as we chat to a pediatrician and we talk about the child's development and those important aspects of that first few months within that child's life. So today, very importantly, the first 1,000 days of life. You can also tell your friends to visit itvnetworks.tv rather, and then they can stream and watch this program as well. So repeats happening again on Saturday morning. Join us again at 10 o'clock. But for myself, Hawa Solomon, for now, wassalamu alaikum and a very good day to you.